Plott is a way to graph paired data sets where the ordered pairs are graphed as points in a coordinate plane, XY. Scatter plots show the relationship between two quantitative variables, such as length of employment and amount of salary. So first off, if we were doing this by hand, we would simply plot along the x-axis the length of the employment and the salary, the y, and we would put our dots. And we would say, okay, what's the pattern? It looks like the longer you're employed, the higher your salary should be. So on the calculator, we do the same thing, only we're going to use a couple of steps to input them. And for future reference, we have added to the back of our binder the steps right here. So these are the steps you would use. First, you're going to open a new spreadsheet, which is under New Document. You're going to label the columns. You can label them anything you want. I would suggest X and Y just to keep it simple, but if you want to label them, say, length and salary, that's fine too. You will input your data, so your X and Y. Then we will move on to the next step, which is we're going to push, we're going to add, after you input your data, you're going to push menu or doc, insert data and statistics. This will bring up this screen here. If you push the tab button, it will take you down to label your x-axis and then tab again to y-axis. Then you're going to push menu, analyze, regression, and we're going to choose the one that's most appropriate based on what you saw here. So there's 3 different ones that we work with. We work with linear, quadratic, and exponential. And we'll be looking at those individually throughout the semester and throughout the year actually. And then you're going to push, say if it's a linear, because the dots seem to be in much more linear line, they're almost lined up, you'll pick linear and it will draw you your regression equation. And this is your mx plus b, literally. M being 2.6, x, b being negative 1.8. So we can now use that line to predict what the amount of salary would be given any length we want of income, employment, say 10 years, 12 years, 3 years, whatever we want. Okay, so that is that. And now we're going to actually do it as a practice. Okay, so here is our data for our length of employment and our salary. So I'm going to walk through the calculator steps just like we just did verbally. So you're going to pick new document, and if it asks you to save, say no. We will talk about how to do multiple pages here in just a second. So you will go down to list, which is number 4, and statistic and spreadsheet. Pick that, go up to A and B and type in label your columns, which again, X and Y is just fine. If you're going to do multiple pages, you're going to multiple problems within the same document, I'll show you how to do that so that you can continue to use X and Y. All right, so we'll put in our data, and I'm going to go ahead and do that. So X and 5 and 32, 4 and 32 point, oops, make sure you go over 32.5. It helps to get into the habit of hitting enter after each one, but when you do that, it will go down, not up. So you might put your X's all in first, then go back and do your Y's. That kind of speeds things up a bit. 6, 9, and 3. And then we'll go back up to our Y's, catching up where we left off, 27.4, 25, 43. If you have a lot of data and you have a friend that you guys are working together, sometimes it helps if one of you reads off the numbers to the other person, and you can take turns doing that. Make sure on the last number, that 28, make sure you hit enter so that the calculator understands that you're done putting in your data. Otherwise, you're going to have an error. Now you push document, Control Doc, and then you're going to pick 5, and you'll get your scatter plot. Right now, the numbers are just scattered. It's just randomly. We have to push Doc or Tab, and it will actually pop down to the bottom, and you will get to choose X. Push Tab again, and you get Y. Tab is over on the left-hand side of the calculator, directly above the control blue tab. All right, so we can look at our data, and it looks like it's basically going in a positive direction as the X's increases, the Y's increase, so we can say that there's a positive relationship here, and it almost looks like they're in line. It's not a perfect line, but that's why we're doing a regression equation, because it's going to estimate the where it cuts through, and the distance between where it cuts through our line and the top and bottoms should be about equal. So we're going to push menu, 4 for analyze, 6 for regression. And again, this is linear, and we want to put it in the mx plus b form, so we'll pick number 1, and it gives us our equation. So now if we want to estimate what the salary would be, say in 15 years, we can use the information we have, and I'm going to show you how to do that next. So this would be like another step that's not actually on your worksheet on the thing, but we're going to add that to our thing. So let's say now that we have our information on our calculator, let's say we want to know salary at, say, 15 years. We want to know how much that is. So push on your calculator, Control Doc one more time. This time we're going to add a calculator, and this way we can actually just use the information. The calculator already knows what your equation is. It also knows, all we have to do is put in what our X is. So we're going to teach the calculator a program. It's pretty simple. You're going to push the var button, which takes it to a list of statistics of variables. The only ones we're interested in are the B and the M. Everything else for right now, don't worry about. The X and Y is actually referring to the ones that you've already put in, so we're not going to use those. We just want what the calculator has determined is your B and your M. So our standard form for a line is, what is the M, which it's not going to give you the number. It's going to put in that because it's referencing something that's on a previous page, times, and then we're going to put in our X that we are determining, which is, what was it, 15 years? Yeah, 15 years. And then plus variable RB. So form of a line is M times X plus B, and we're just putting in what our X is. The calculator knows what its M is and knows what its B is, and it tells us that in 15 years we should be making $59,000 because everything was in terms of thousands of dollars. So at 15 years, our salary is estimating at 59.08 thousands. Okay. Now we can also use this to solve for a, we can also use this to solve for Y, finding out, well, how many years do you have to work to number of years for salary, let's say 90,000, which we are going to say Y equals 90 in that case, okay, because we're going to drop the thousands part. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do this time a NSolve type situation, but we can still use the same problems. So NSolve is menu 3.1, and we're going to put in 90 because that's our Y equals, go back to var, pick M. This time we're going to say times X plus var B, and we're going to say comma X. So even though X is in bold on this, it's okay because we're telling it we're solving for X. Put enter, and it tells us that in 27 years, we should be making $90,000. So this one is X equals 27 years. And we can do that same setup every time for any of these type of problems. It's all going to be the same steps. Now there's one other thing I want to show you, which we are going to be using for a future reference. If we use the control and the left arrow key, we can get back to our data. Sometimes you have to hit escape. All right, and on here we can actually find out the M and the X the same way. without going through the plotting part. So if we push menu, go to 4 for statistics, 1 for stat calculations, and we're doing one variable because there's only an X, not an X and multiple. One variable statistics, there's number of lists, or actually, sorry, this is 2 variable statistics. 2 variable statistics. So your X is called X, our Y is called Y, and we're going to put it into the third column to get information, hit OK. And what it does is it actually will tell us all of the information that we'll need for other stuff later on. There were 10 pieces of information. N is 10. And go all the way to the top. X bar, we will learn here in a little bit, is we can call that mean. So the mean of the X's is 5.8 years. The funny looking EX means sum of the X's. That means 58. S of X is our sample standard deviation. We're going to talk about that later. And then we can all see the Y bar, which is Y means of the Y's is 35,000. And it keeps going. So this is information that we're going to be using as we go through the semester. So last thing I want to show you on this quick video is if we're wanting to go ahead and do a second problem, we can actually add a, go to menu, we can insert no, not a column. How did I do that? Menu. Crap, I can't remember how to do it. That's adding a page. Oh, okay. So we can add a document. This will separate problem to problem and keep everything in one document. So you can go to document, the DOC pick number 4, and we're going to add a problem. If we add a page, that's just going to do 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, and those are all linked. So your X's and Y's will be continued. If we do a problem, it actually makes a new set, and you can now put in X and Y again, and they will not record the previous problems set up. And again, just a quick reminder, it's 4, go up, put your X and Y. If you did this on a separate page, when you put X here, it would have pre-filled in. It did not because we're on a new problem. And then we would go on and continue the problem. Okay, so that is all for today.